This video is part 3 of a multi-part series on these old voltage regulators that were used on Kohler engines in the mid-60s. For best results, watch the videos in order. In the last video, I did some tests on this regulator to see if I thought I could fix it. That worked out okay. So I cleaned the points and adjusted the first coil, the cutout coil. Now I'm going to clean and adjust the points on the second coil. That's the regulator coil. Before I take it apart, I'm going to remove some of the spring pressure. And like the other side, there's still some pressure there, but not as much. The first set of points were normally open, and I took off the movable point at the hinge. This set of points is normally closed, so I'm removing the fixed point. The hinged part stays attached to the base. This removable point is insulated, so there's a little metal plate that the screws tighten on. Behind that is a plastic spacer, and it has protrusions that go through the hole to insulate the screws. There's another plastic spacer behind it, so that removable point is sandwiched in plastic to keep it insulated from the frame. Like the other coil, there's a wire attached to the part you're taking off. This wire is thicker. You have to bend the wire to get the point out of the way. Here's what the movable point looks like. That's pretty dirty. Here's what the fixed point looks like. That's not black and dirty like the other one. I see a few bumps on it. I'm going to file on it anyways to give it a new surface. This point's a lot harder than the other ones. There's one little hole there. It's pretty deep. I'd have to take off a lot of metal to get it out. So I think I'll stop there. There's one deep hole in this one too. So I'm going to stop there on that one. Here's what they look like now. You can see that one hole that's still there. And there's a hole in this one too. I'd have to file a long time to get those out. This is ready to go back together now. The steel plate keeps the screw from squashing into the plastic. Look at it from this side and verify the plastic will keep the screws isolated. Then this other plastic piece goes on. The holes in this plastic are squashed in a little bit, so I'll screw the screws in to hold the plastic parts together. That looks good. Now I'll bend the wire to get it into position. This one has slotted mounting holes like the other coil. There's enough room to have it way out of position, so line up the points when you tighten the screws. Now I need to set the gap between the core of the coil and the bottom of this movable point. It should be 75 thousandths of an inch. I have 3 feeler gauge blades that add up to 75. I don't want to squeeze these together to get a good reading. I'm going to take the feeler gauge apart so I can hold on to just the 3 that I need. That don't fit in there, so I'll loosen the screws and move it up some. Now the gauge fits in this way, but the book says to check air gap, push the armature down until contact points are still just touching, then measure the air gap. It's still too big. I can see a small gap when I push down on the top of the plate. I'm going to tighten it up a little. Now I can't get the gauge in there, so I want the gap bigger again. I think that's got it. I'm going to tighten up the screws. Now it's too tight. The gauge won't go in even if I don't push down. I'll try to move it up a bit. I can force it through there. Still need to make the gap bigger. It's still too tight. I wonder if I'm out of adjustment on the screws. Yeah, that feels like it's all the way up. I'm going to tighten the screws and check again. Yeah, the gap's too small, even though it's at the top of the travel. It looks like the bottom of this part's angled outward. I'm going to try to bend it more square. Now there's a gap there. I can push down and create a gap with the gauge in there. Okay, now I need to tighten the gap a bit. That feels pretty good. I'm going to tighten the screws and check it. Well, that's really close. Yeah, that feels good. I'm going to leave it there. I'll verify the screws are tight and check it again. Yep, that's where I'm going to leave it. I'm going to connect the power. I'll show the cheat sheet again. The positive voltage goes to the generator terminal. The negative voltage goes to the frame ground. Now for the other part of the cheat sheet. I'm checking the second coil. So 1 ohm meter lead connects to the F terminal, and the other ohm meter lead connects to the frame ground. The meter on the right shows the voltage I'm putting to the regulator to power the coil. The meter on the left shows resistance, so I can tell when the points are open or closed. I disable the auto ranging and put it on the lowest scale to read ohms directly. That's not right. That's showing K ohms. I want just ohms. I'm turning on the power. The voltage is going up. The ohm meter shows the points are open already. I'm going to start tightening the screw. That adds spring pressure to close the points. When the ohm meter shows near 0, the points are closed. Turn up the voltage again, and the points open at about 8 or 9 volts. I'll tighten the spring pressure till the points close. Turn up the voltage again, and the points open at about 10 volts. Tighten the spring pressure till the points close. And I'll tighten it a bit more because I still have a few volts to go. Turn up the voltage again, and the points open at about 12 volts. I want it to open at around 13.7. I'll turn it almost the same amount as last time. This big screwdriver don't fit in there without touching other stuff. I'm switching to a smaller one. Turn up the voltage again. The points open at about 13 volts. You can hear the screw squeak when I turn it. Now it's up to 13.5 volts. That was too much. I'm at 14 volts and it didn't open yet. I'm gonna back off some Now I have to lower the voltage to let the points close and try again, raising the voltage again. That looked like about 13.6. I'll lower the voltage to close the points. Voltage is coming up. That looked like about 13.7. Lowering the voltage again. Voltage going back up. And that was about 13.6. I want to go up just a tiny bit. I'll take the voltage down and back up. That looks like 13.7 or 13.8. I'm going to put on the cover and see if that changes it. I'm going to raise the voltage. And it opens about 13.5. Back down a little until it closes. Back up and it opens at 13.5. So I'll tighten it one more little squeak. At 13.5 it starts to change and open at about 13.6. Up another little squeak. I'm going to raise the voltage. Now it opens at 13.8 or 13.9. I'll try again. Yep, that opens at 13.8. Okay, that's where it's supposed to be. I'm going to check the first coil to make sure it's still good. Here's the cheat sheet again. 1 ohm meter lead goes to the BAT terminal. The other ohm meter lead goes to the GEN terminal on the underside. This coil should close at about 11 to 11.5 volts. This set of points is normally open, and there's no resistor in this circuit, so the ohm meter shows the over limit reading. And that one changes to all zeros at about 11.6 volts. So that's still good. Just a few comments about this particular regulator. The corrosion might be a problem. If you clean it out, it might last a long time, but it might not, because you probably can't clean everything, like between parts that are riveted together. Also, I think these points might have been overheated because of the discoloration in the brass arm on top there, and because of the matching deep pits that are in the points that I couldn't file out. Okay, even though I have those complaints about this regulator, currently it passes my testing, so it should function properly when it's used with the Delco Remy starter generator, like was used on Kohler engines in the early to mid 1960s. That is, if you bolt it to the frame of the tractor, or something other than the engine. If you mount the thing directly on the starter generator, it's not going to work right. That may sound strange, since this style, like was used on most wheel horses and many other Kohler applications, was made to attach to the starter generator. Next time, I'll talk about my theory on why that is and what to do about it. right after I talk about what each coil does in the charging system and why I set them up the way I do. Alright, that's it.